thing on. So, sofa sessions. Take one.
First sofa session.
And we've chosen the biggest guest, so we can't all sit on the fucking sofa.
Biggest guest.
What are we talking about?
Apparently nutrition.
Let's start it off. Let's just forget the cameras rolling. What are we going to talk about in nutrition?
How are we going to talk about nutrition?
Well, he knows everything.
I know. Should we start with our nutrition across America?
Yeah, I think
do you know anything about our nutrition across America?
So
nutrition was amazing. I watched those videos.
So to fill people in, myself, James, and our friend Lawrence, we rode 2,000 miles along the west coast of America. We mainly ate chips.
I was 3 kilos heavier.
Yeah.
Were you actually heavier? Amazing.
I guess a good question. Yeah, we ended up heavier than when we started.
Yeah,
I guess the question is, would we have been faster if we were eating better? Because we were it was a stress. Like in America, there isn't very many options
for good food.
For good food when you're in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
So we were kind of just focused on the riding, and then when we did stop, we were just wanted to get as many calories in as possible because we were scared that we were going to bonk or whatever. Yeah, and that would have been way worse than being a bit too full.
I loved your like gallon Gatorades.
Gatorade's good, right? Actually,
I don't know. I just preferred it to water because when you got because Gatorade because it's got a taste to it. When it's really warm, it's less inside. When you got warm water, I don't know.
It's not been in there.
It's got electrolyte in though, right?
Yeah, it's a sports drink, so it should have electrolyte in it.
Not a full range of electrolytes. Not a full.
Should have a full range, yeah. But they change so much. They vary.
Gatorade.
What is a full house of electrolytes? Magnesium, potassium, sodium,
and calcium.
But the majority of what we lose through our sweat is sodium.
Yeah, it's mainly
95%.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty much all sodium.
Okay, right. Yeah. So the fact that there wasn't the rest of them in that, I don't think there was in the American Gatorade. There was definitely sodium.
So the question I have
be so bad.
is: I drank more Gatorade than any other fucker in the country within that month. Why did I get the fucking cramps?
Yeah, you definitely. I saw your salt marks on your
house bike rider.
Yeah, it's probably something like that.
It's looking at concentration of sodium to water though. So most typical sports drinks have only like 0.3 grams of sodium, which is not much. It's the same as like most standardized electrolyte tabs.
Right.
But if you've got a really high sodium sweat rate, you can be needing like 0.7 gram sodium per 500 mils.
Okay.
One of the medics that's at the Hot Chili event, a cycling event that I go to, he had done a paper on hydration.
Okay,
it was his speciality. Yeah. And he was always telling everybody to have one electrolyte drink, one tab in, and then have one bottle of water, and alternate between the two. Because if you have too much, it's just as bad. You can end up with an electrolyte imbalance.
People overhydrate, and they can dilute themselves. So if you're losing electrolyte and your electrolyte levels are going down, but then you take on loads and loads of just water maybe, which is what a lot of people do after their electrolytes run out, take on loads of water and then they've got loads of water in them but hardly any electrolyte, so they've just diluted their levels.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that's when you get, the most common thing that you get after ultra endurance events is hyponatremia, where people are having crashes of energy, or they're feeling fatigued, or their headaches, nausea, sickness, cramps, things like this are all brought on by hyponatremia, which you can get from like 2% dehydration, so 2% of your body weight. So
it sounds so small, doesn't it? I assume it's not that.
2% of my body weight is a shitload. So I've heard that these electrolyte tablets that you get are predominantly bonding agent with a very, very small amount of electrolytes. Is that true?
Yeah. So like a lot of the commercial ones, they're not very good.
Stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got a trick for this.
So where are you better off getting your electrolytes from? Where would you say is the best source of getting electrolytes?
So Precision Hydration is a really good one. So they do varying amounts. They do 500 milligrams, 750 and 1,000. And you can get your sweat rate tested both through water sweat rate and then sodium sweat rate.
Right.
And you can find out how much you actually need per hour, I guess.
So they measure your sweat. Well, they should come work in the fit studio every now and then. Every now and then you get a chopper that comes in. It's just
So we had a pretty handy trick, didn't we, when we were going across the desert?
Because
we couldn't
carry all the fucking water.
No.
yeah, just take everything.
You've forgotten completely. We had a bag of stuff.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
you were like, we're not carrying that across the desert. And then it was the best thing. We basically bought
Like pretzels or something.
This is not sponsored by myprotein.com. From myprotein.com, a bag of electrolyte powder, which was I kind of looked at the values. It was about £9 for the equivalent of over 500 Noom tablets worth of electrolyte. So we were having this little teaspoon. Tastes like shit. It's not flavoured. Tastes salty. Yeah,
Like a little key.
it's a little sprinkle, just a little tip of a teaspoon in your bottle, and something you put some squash or something in, and then it tastes actually not too bad.
It's the most
So
common
much
thing
cheaper.
like people have as an issue when they go on big tours or big rides, like long distance. Even here in England in summer, like they go out for a big day out and they're like getting all the issues and wondering why. And it's just because they haven't had enough sodium most of the time.
Okay, so on dehydration then, I have a lot of people, and I have a theory, and I've been told this as well, that I get a lot of people who come to me and they say they get cramps.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm told that cramping isn't necessarily always a sign of dehydration. It can absolutely be a overutilization of a muscle group,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely.
So if you got, I mean, when I cramped in the desert, I cramped in my back, my glutes, my quads, my hamstrings,
Shit
my
bike
calves. Yeah, it's terrible. Well, but actually the point is, I cramped everywhere.
Do you want a bike fit? Because I'll do it.
Whereas,
Can I bike it fit?
we'll do it over Christmas.
Yeah, we'll do it. I'm going
Most of the time, when I get people who come see me, they're getting cramping almost in their quads.
Yeah.
Because they're quad dominant and all this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
okay, so basically, cramping isn't necessarily always about
No.
dehydration.
No.
Fine.
It
Urban
can,
myth.
yeah, it can be a multitude of things. Ken Buckley's
Kenny Boom Boom.
Yeah, Kenny Boom Boom. Yeah, showed me
He's
some.
massive as well. Can we
massive.
just get small guests on for next time?
The camera's not wide angle enough. Who is tiny? Jimmy.
Oh,
Jimmy is tiny.
Jimmy's tiny. We'll get little Jimmy.
Yeah.
Causes of cramping can be dehydration and electrolyte.
Uh-huh.
It can be overutilization of certain muscle groups,
Yep.
especially if you're going hard in like a time trial or something like this, or you're just out doing a big ride and you haven't done that much in a while. And it could be your bike fit as well. I'm super interested at how you gained weight.
Yeah, but we were riding steady.
Yeah, alright.
The problem was the sizes of the portions.
Yeah, like I was drinking like 2 litres of beer.
We're the sort of people that in the UK would order 2 portions like in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Because portions in the UK are not big enough.
No, they're not.
Right?
Occasionally, depends on the...
In America, you order 1 and you barely finish it.
America's the only place in the world where I've not really finished portions.
Really?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It is absolutely...
Have you not been to America?
Yeah, I have to Chicago.
Okay.
Oh, it might
So-
be better on the East Coast. Like,
It is better on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I used to live in Florida, so
Yeah.
and the food was better. I found the food. I can't say. What were we eating in Denny's? It was chips for you,
chips,
and
toast.
Lawrence and I were eating just kind of burgers.
Yeah.
They did a salady. They did a skillet of vegetables.
Oh yeah, the
thing.
veggie skillet. That
veggie
wasn't
skillet.
too bad.
It was covered in oil and probably butter and all sorts of stuff there.
And so for people who are going to look and go do the open route or the transcontinental or something like that, where there's the kind of bare minimal resources available,
Yeah.
what should they be looking to pack in?
Not keto.
Not keto.
Definitely not keto.
Sean Sakanovsky's not going to like that at all.
Yeah.
But not keto.
It's about food
The
availability,
viewers need to
isn't
know
it?
what keto is, though.
Ketogenic diet is a very low carbohydrate diet, near enough less than 50 grams of carbohydrate a day. The problem with that is it's too restrictive on an event that you don't know how often you're going to get food, what kind of food availability you're going to have. And then also, as soon as you take yourself out of ketosis, all the training that you've done on it is not going to be utilised well because you haven't trained having carbohydrate, you've only trained being in ketosis. So all that training you've done, as soon as you come out of it, is going to just be pointless.
If you're so keen on using ketones as a fuel source, why don't you just buy some of that keto drink?
Oh, HMMV. It's so expensive.
It's really
It is well
expensive.
expensive, but if you're doing an event and you're really set on wanting to win it, then I mean,
Yeah, so the data on that's really crazy because you actually use it as a dual energy source.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's really interesting. I spoke to the professor who's doing the research on this in America. So you have carbohydrate which you use as an energy source, and you have different transporters like different trains that take glucose and fructose through your stomach. So they go through different trains, and then you have those different transporters. This ketone ester has its own transporter as well, so you get like a third energy source that you can use exactly at the same time. Whereas if you do a ketogenic diet, as soon as you take carbohydrate becomes the main energy source.
It switches.
Yeah, so it changes. Whereas this doesn't have that. You can use it at the same time, which is why they're seeing like loads of crazy like improvements in it.
Yeah.
But it's obscenely expensive.
Yeah.
And you can only buy it in a box. Like,
How expensive is it?
So I had a serving. The guys had some samples of like one servings out in South Africa, and they were £30, about £30.
So you've taken this?
No, I haven't actually taken any.
Oh, okay.
I pussied out at the last minute. But the serving in South Africa was half the amount that Ken had on his clinical trial. That people were having clinical trials to get some of these results. So people were having twice as much as that to get the mega results. So £60 more.
You take a certain amount of milligrams per kilo of body weight.
It lasts a few hours.
Yeah, and then you're meant to take it again during the ride, depending on the length of it.
And so this ketone drink, is it legal?
It is legal, yeah. It's not banned.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, which is it's definitely being used in all the big races for sure.
Oh, it's like huge, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a huge difference.
So we digress. What should people be looking to eat on these kind of ultra endurance rides?
So a big factor that's difference between what you did and what a trans-conti person would be doing is that they're racing and you weren't.
Yeah.
So I would say for you guys, as long as you're having enough protein and you're covering foundations, so you're not going to get complete dehydration or hyponatremia, then you're going to be fine. Because you still got there in the end, didn't you? And you enjoyed it.
Just about. Love cycling.
I'd say more protein for you guys anyway in general would be helpful, because if you're going to do 100 mile days back to back, you need the recovery. And you could be smarter about it. You could optimize glycogen resynthesis, so the speed at which you take on carbohydrate back into the muscle afterwards by carbohydrate refeeding after the session immediately and again within 2 hours.
All right, say you're bike packing, you stop at a petrol station. Where can you get a reliable source of protein that it doesn't come along with loads of fat, like nuts? Or energy bars, like protein bars, milk.
Yeah.
What about a vegan version?
I know you don't like milk.
Disgusting.
Talk to the wrong people.
Well,
bad suggestion. Alright, get out.
Well, 1% flavoured milk though comes with loads of carbohydrate in the form of fast-releasing sugar, which so it's going to be taken on really quickly. It comes with protein, and it comes in varying grades of fat. So you can have it high fat for calories, or you can have it no fat for low calories. So it's actually a really useful.
What about beer?
What about people who really want to avoid milk? Yeah. Or do lactose intolerant?
Yeah, lactose
intolerant. A little bit funny with it, isn't it? Everyone's a little bit funny, especially if you're in the middle of nowhere.
And what we're looking for, something to have that's...
Milk is not something to drink on a hot day either. I mean, it's like the worst thing ever.
I don't know, I think it's mixed results. Some of the One Pro boys used to love it after a race. Yeah, so milk's a great choice, but you want a non-milk version for what?
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't like milk or
stop in American.
Yeah, but to do what?
Stop in a gas station.
What are we trying to do with it? Just replace it like
well, you said more protein overall. Yeah. Well, I suppose at the end of an event, you go to a restaurant with limited options. What sort of things should we be looking at in the menu?
If you're doing a multi-day event, you want to be looking at high GI carbohydrates. So anything like white breads, mashed potato, things like that. White rice, anything that is on that white end of the spectrum, because it's about how fast that releases into your bloodstream. And when you finish activity, you have about a 4 or 5 hour period where that goes into the muscle so much more efficiently than after that 4 to 5 hour period. Because when you do exercise, the permeability of the muscle changes and it allows transportation through it a lot.
A massive bottle of Coca-Cola when you finish at the motel, was that bad?
I mean...
He looked at me like that. You really hate Coca-Cola.
No, I don't really hate Coca-Cola. I mean, obviously oral hygiene-wise, it's not going to be great, is it?
But, I mean, what you just said about, like, the refined kind of carbohydrate groups, like the white breads and white rice and all that, I find that really interesting, because I've always kind of stayed away from that sort of stuff, just on the grounds that I've always thought of it to be more refined and thus slightly worse for you. Perhaps.
Brown bread looks healthier, doesn't it?
Yeah, brown bread, brown rice. I've always kind of gravitated towards those.
Yeah.
Brown rice though
Is that
tastes like shit.
And it takes ages to cook.
Fucking like I never cooked it.
we're like getting to a point where it's getting quite educational for the viewers, and then one of us is trying to go, that's fucking.
It depends. Everyday life, and if you're just about, then having brown, lower GI carbohydrates is better. It's not going to spike your insulin as much. It's going to have a steady release of energy. So yeah, that is better. But when you're looking at like white rice and white bread is going to have lower levels of micronutrients and things because it's been refined so much. But it's easier to digest. It's lower in fiber. It's going to go into your body a lot faster. So if you're doing 100 miles back to back every day, you just want to get it in there. You don't want to be taking its time. And when you look at how much glycogen you store, so stored carbohydrate, and compare white high GI refined carbohydrates to complex carbohydrates, browns and things, you store significantly less, even if you have the same amount.
Come up with a solution then.
What's that?
Burrito.
Burritos
This is what? Yeah. So
we ate loads of.
we did.
Remember those
And
times we got at the gas
we
station?
only started catching on towards the end. We were like, hang on a minute, there's Mexican food everywhere because
Like-
we were near like.
Fucking rocket fuel.
Why didn't we clock onto that before? It's beans, rice, so protein, carbohydrate in a wrap. That's easy to eat.
Burrito would be a great choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, and obviously you could, if you're a meat eater, you can add the chicken. Or
Yeah, we average
you know.
eight a day.
8 a day.
8 burritos
Oh,
a
easy,
day.
mate.
This is why you gained weight.
Yeah, probably.
There's so much of that in the sport as well. Like people worrying about gaining weight, and you're out there to ride and have a good time. Like you're not racing.
Well,
are you?
that trip wasn't racing. It was about having a jolly, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And a jolly we had.
Yeah.
People doing TCR need to be more aware of actually when they finish their day's riding, how effective and important that 4-hour period after that ride is.
Yeah.
That can have a huge factor on how they start the next day, recovery-wise and replenishment-wise.
Because you hear all these stories about TCR riders kind of finishing on their finishing their day's ride and going into a shop and saying, you know, do you sell sandwiches? And they go, yeah, we sell sandwiches, and I'll have 9. I think you told me this story. And you know, they sit down and they sit there and they eat 9 sandwiches. I don't think I've ever eaten 9 sandwiches. Maybe little tiny mini ones, like Francis Cade size ones. The point is that sort of knee-jerk reaction of just overloading your stomach with like 9 sandwiches or 10 hamburgers or whatever it might be, just to get food in because you're so starving.
Yeah.
Is that going to be detrimental to your performance the next day?
Potentially, yeah, because they could wake up like so bloated.
Can't eat breakfast.
Yeah, feeling so heavy. They're not going to feel comfortable. How much of that actually did they digest? Probably not as much as they needed.
Yeah.
The guys who are really good at it, like so take Christoph for example. There's a guy called Christoph Allergart who.
Well, he doesn't eat anyway. He's a robot.
He's won pretty much every race that he's entered, ultra distance, and his rule was kind of like 4 hours of stoppage time per 24 hours. And I don't recall ever seeing him like completely gorging himself.
Yeah, but the guy doesn't sleep either, though, does he?
Probably 3 hours out of 4.
But I mean, okay, so if we put it into real world scenario for viewers who are possibly not going to be riding the Transcontinental, but going to be riding perhaps
Oat route,
Oat route or some sort of sportive, the attack, something like that, what should they be eating the day before then, perhaps?
The day before?
Yeah, day before.
So the best way to do it would be to do like a 1-day carb load. And that would be to do high GI carbohydrates again. So you want about 10 grams per kilogram of body weight. And that, all beer.
They can drink beer as well?
No, they can't drink beer.
Oh, okay.
You can have one beer.
You have 1 beer?
James has never had 1 beer.
I've never had 1 beer. Well, I have actually. It was...
Would you go to
I was in Las Vegas. You guys are just going out for 1 pint, and then he comes back. And he's like, "How much was that round of free drinks?"
$75. Beer was bigger than Lucy's head.
Okay, yeah.
Oh my god. I think some of these sportive people though have been training all year. They've got themselves a coach, a nutritionist and everything, and then they go and have a few beverages.
Quite
the night before
literally.
and fuck it.
Yeah, they spunk it all the night before.
Terrible. 1-day carb load, they should practice it as well.
Yeah.
Definitely practice it.
Like, give us an example of.
Sounds good to me, mate. I'll just do. I've been doing a 1 day carb load for like 3 weeks now.
They probably want to have it relatively low in protein and low in fat because they don't need the fat because they don't need the calories. It's already going to be really high in calories because of the carbohydrate. Don't need the protein because they're going to be in a calorie excess anyway. And as long as they've got a sufficient amount for a sedentary day, they'll recover. So then it's 10 grams per kilogram of body weight carbohydrate. For you guys, it's not as much.
Should I have pasta?
For me, it's a bit more. But yeah, pasta is actually a moderate GI carbohydrate.
Right.
So I'd probably say white rice is a better option than that, or mashed potato, jack potato, burrito, yeah, white tortilla.
Just coming back to it.
White tortilla, white bread, things like this. And they want to spread it through the whole day. They want to start their day bigger. So bigger breakfast, bigger lunch, bigger dinner. But then also a few snacks spread through the day. And then also using drinks to help get that carbohydrate in, because drinks don't fill you up.
Okay, so I personally have always been a really big fan of eating real food on the bike. Like,
yeah.
I don't get on very well with energy bars or anything like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you tend to rate energy bars that are commercially available in bike shops and in supermarkets and all that kind of stuff, or do you tend to recommend? I mean, I wrote 1, 2, 3 ways on cheese and ham croissants.
Yeah.
Just mostly because it was.
I know some people that do it like peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah, man.
I did it with just a loaf of bread.
Yeah. Nothing on it.
No.
Is it like a Hovis or a baguette?
No. I mean, it was a French version of Hovis.
I'd say, so first thing, look at the event you're doing and looking at what things are going to provide you with. If you can take everything you want or need for that event on yourself, then take the foods that you practice with. But if they are going to provide you things at feed stations and so on, so a real typical one would be Ironman is sponsored by High Five. That means that all the things given out at feed stations will be High Five.
Right.
So it'd be good to practice using High Five products because that's what's available. And that's kind of going back to that sports nutrition related, like sports supplements, or is it real food? I'd say you need to practice with what's available at the race. So like bike races, whether it's a road race or whatever, use what you're going to use on the day to practice with, because it just makes sense. It'd be like riding on a bike all year on one bike and then changing it last minute and then running a different one. Makes no sense.
So check what they're going to be giving you.
Yeah, what's being provided. And then practicing that as well. Like, so many people don't practice their nutrition. Like, you go out and train all the time. You do a big ride, a short ride, an intense ride, and so on, but they don't practice the food that they have per hour and end up getting there, going like fucking hitting it hard and then bonking, and they're all getting dehydrated.
Because you either forget,
and that's the ramification, is it, of doing a strenuous ride on nutrition products that you haven't necessarily used before.
Yeah, they might not know
problems as well. Right?
Yeah, gastro problems. They might not know what's in the product. It might not agree with them. It could just be a case of taste as well, that they don't like it and they're not going to use it anymore because they don't like it anymore. Yeah. So there's so many factors that come into it, and everything, all of the nutrition should be practiced for the day completely.
Yeah.
From carb load to the meal that you have beforehand. This is stuff that I do with all the people that I work with. I even go to I had a guy who raced in Malaysia recently in Langkawi, and I got him eating Malaysian food for a month before that. So he got used to eating Malaysian food. Yeah. So he didn't get there and have a surprise and have like a noodle soup and suddenly start shitting himself.
Yeah, because it's a little chilly, right?
Yeah.
So to recap, you want to check if you're going to go and do one of these big kind of European sportives. You want to check what they're going to be providing on the day, and you want to be testing that for what sort of period before then?
I'd probably say at least 8 weeks beforehand. In that kind of 6 to 10 week lead up to it, where your volume should be getting a lot bigger, closer to that event before you taper. Then that's where you got the biggest rides, where you got the most leeway to have extra calories and actually feed for these rides. So then you can have that race nutrition. You can start smashing down the whatever food you've chosen to have, whether it is real food or whether that is the product at the race.
Are you a massive believer in commercially available energy bars? As a nutritionist? I mean, we don't have to say any names here, but I mean, there are certain brands of energy bar that I personally really like because they tend to be a little bit more natural. There are others that are a little bit more plasticky that I just can't. It's just loaded with sugar a lot of the time, I find.
Some of them don't taste great, and then some of them aren't just a very good product. And then others are are fine, and then others have loads of fat in as well. And then when you start looking at the macronutrient breakdown, it can actually change how quickly you digest that food.
Would you want to avoid excessive fat in an energy bar?
Definitely. Yeah.
Why?
High fat intakes slow down digestion rates because it gets released into the next compartment from your stomach, which is called the duodenum. It gets slowed down, so it slows down all digestion. So suddenly you're not taking on that energy as quickly as possible, which is counterintuitive to the whole purpose of taking it on.
Yeah.
So if you're having like high fat foods, if you're eating nuts, if you're eating a peanut butter sandwich, if you're eating a high fat energy bar that's got loads of chocolate or loads of nuts in that as well, then that's going to slow that down and it's destroying the purpose of it.
Right.
So
you don't get that penetration of the stomach line.
Yeah, exactly. So you want things that are just really easy, low fiber. It's going to digest nice and quickly.
Do you have a personal favourite like energy bar?
I don't actually.
Do you not?
I don't really use energy bars.
Okay, well that speaks volumes.
If you compare macronutrient breakdown of bar, gel or liquid, if they're identical, the digestion rate's exactly the same.
Yeah.
But it's not often you get a bar that is the same as a liquid or a gel, because it always comes with chocolate or something on it.
Yeah.
And also the satiety rating of bars is way higher than gels and liquids.
The what rating?
Satiety rating, so like how full you feel.
satisfied you are.
Yeah.
Okay,
so if you start with bars, if you keep having bars, you'll start to feel really full.
Yeah.
Is what people tend to see. So that's why a lot of road racers in particular as well, they'll start off having solid food, rice cakes, bars at the early stages of the race, and then they'll switch to gels. Yeah.
I used to, we had a nutrition sponsor when I was racing full time. So I had like an abundance of gels, and I got used to eating the gels on rides.
Yeah.
To the point where I could do 4-hour road race just with gels, and that was really good because it's quicker. Yeah. But you wouldn't go into that straight away without having like prepped your stomach, because otherwise it's just like loads of slushy gels with caffeine in sometimes as well, and it's gonna like mess you up. What? No, it's just like caffeine. You don't want to have to stop by the side of the road.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, end up with
and get used to it. Yeah. Because there's sometimes, depending on the brand, can be a lot more caffeine than you used to. Most of them about the same as Pro Plus, but so about half a cup of coffee.
Okay.
But
so
if you're bashing 6 of them,
you read a lot on the packaging of gels. You need to take one every 20 minutes. Would you agree with that statement?
It depends on the intensity of the ride and the duration.
Okay.
So
like a sportive event.
Yeah. So if they're going,
sportive, it could be a tap. If you're climbing up a mountain for an hour, 3 gels is not that outrageous.
Yeah.
So it depends. It depends how competitive you are as well. Like how well you want to do, because you can actually train yourself to eat 90 grams an hour on a bike.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of gels an hour. Like think about how much food that is per hour, especially for the tap. How long does it take to do the tap?
I don't know. I've never done it.
About 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Nutrition. Dinner.
Top worst food ever.
It's a terrible question.
Don't care.
Margarine.
Really? You basically just had margarine on.
So you ate the dip.
It's converting a liquid form fat into a solid form fat by adding a hydrogen ion, and by doing so, it turns it into a trans fat, which means that it goes into our artery walls more. You can't get rid of it. It's just not very good.
Give us an example of foods that contain this fat.
Margarine's an example.
It's not the same as a saturated fat.
No, it's not the same as.
To be clear.
Also being like cheap chocolates and things like this typically, but
like Mars bars, not Vars bars.
No, Mars bars. No, definitely not Mars bars. Well, no, it would be in Mars bars because
But it's easy to tell. Like on the back of a label, it's a legal requirement, isn't it? That
I think
so. Most supermarkets, you've got to put. It will say fats of which saturate, and then it says trans fats. And you'll see how many grams there are of that.
They always used to talk about trans fats being in like cheap chocolate and cheap things like this, where they need to add fat to it, and it's a cheaper way to add it in, but to solidify something. But I don't know if they have to label it or what kind of products it would be in nowadays. Even if it is going to be in products, because they've probably discovered something else that can use as just cheap.
Why should you be avoiding alcohol if you are aiming to lose weight?
Because you're Lawrence. Because you're an ant.
Ant King.
Sorry.
King.
Ant King.
Ant King.
Ant King Cole.
Why shouldn't you have alcohol if you're trying to lose weight?
Yes.
Easy. Because as you drink more alcohol, your inhibitions drop. it increases your hunger levels, and then you're less likely to stick to your diet. It's also, in larger amounts, can make you potentially atrophy muscle mass as well.
There's a lot of calories in it as well.
And there's a lot of calories.
More than a gram of carbohydrate.
Well, it's 7 calories per gram of ethanol or alcohol, and then you've also got the carbohydrate on top of it, depending on the drink.
Okay. Yeah.
So obviously, if it's cider, it's going to have more sugar in it, and then obviously beer has carbohydrate in it from the wheat, and then spirits have less.
Diet drinks.
Oh, I did a research on this today.
Did you?
Yeah.
So my question is, when you drink Diet Coke,
Yep.
does that still create an insulin response in your
Asked me a
body?
question I haven't researched.
Because that's like, so I've always avoided them because I was under the impression that you'd still have an insulin response.
So
therefore you'd end up storing lots of unnecessary calories as fat.
So from what I was reading about artificial sweeteners, is there are no adverse health effects to any of the sweeteners that are out there commercially at the moment. And some of them have maximum daily requirements. So you can only have obviously a certain amount that is bad for you.
Minimum.
Aspartame has been checked in over 90 countries and it's proven safe. And then you've got things like sucralose, which is also a main commercial one. And that's been studied in over 110 studies in humans and in animals, and it hasn't been shown to have any adverse effects to humans or animals.
So diet drinks are absolutely categorically healthier for you than non-diet drinks.
No, healthier is a different question.
Well, that's kind of where we're going with this, though, isn't it? So I've always stayed away from diet drinks because I've kind of always been
What do you mean by healthy? Are you if your goal is to not put on weight?
Coke is not fucking healthy, is it? Let's face it.
No, I'm not going to say that in any way.
But a diet soda is not necessarily healthier than a soda of the same brand.
I would say that they're all
less calorific, perhaps, but not necessarily.
It depends how you're looking at it. So they're going to be less calorific if you're trying to stick to a calorie deficit and you have cravings for sweet things, then a calorie drink can really help you with that. There's loads of studies that have shown also that diet drinks have helped obese people and other people with body composition goals achieve those by curbing sugar cravings. It helps you adhere to the plan and so on. Same thing for sugar-free jelly and whatever. But it doesn't mean, and just because all these studies have shown that they're healthy doesn't mean that you can go chugging a 2-litre bottle of Diet Coke and it's all going to be fine, because it's probably not. So I'd be sensible and say the same thing that I'd say for Coke as well. If you're going to have full-fat Coke that doesn't have sweeteners in, it's still a load of fucking sugar and it's still not going to be great for your teeth. So where can you have that Coke? Probably could have it on a bike ride because you're going to need carbohydrate to fuel the bike ride. You probably could have it afterwards because it's going to help replace glycogen storage. They're fine periods to have it in. And it's probably going to be fine to have with dinner once in a while.
Having it daily.
But yeah, having it daily and having it casually whilst you're sitting at your desk at work isn't going to be fine. And the same thing for diet drinks. I wouldn't say having 1 or 2 diet drinks every single day is going to be that great for you. That's not come from any of the research. That's just because I don't think if you are having that many diet drinks, it's not a great choice that you're hydrating yourself that way, or the other chemicals that could potentially be in it that aren't artificial sweeteners and so on.
Sparkling water versus still water? I'm actually just genuinely interested in this one myself because I drink a lot of sparkling water.
It's carbonated.
Yeah.
They added the bubbles.
But there's all this talk about sparkling water being really bad for your teeth and.
Really?
Yeah. I've
idea.
I've read so many articles that have just said that opinion is complete and utter bollocks.
It sounds like bollocks.
Like
I have no idea. I'm not a dentist.
I suspect it depends on the type of carbonated water though, because there are some. Obviously, sweetened carbonated waters are obviously going to have the sugar element to them, but there are there not certain spring waters are fine,
I have
but
no idea.
Yeah.
What you're saying there is if you're in the south you get lime water, and then if you go in the north it's hard water or something, isn't it? And then suddenly you're you get more lime scale in your pipes because you're from the north or something like this. I don't know.
The water in the north is softer, actually.
Well, it's the other way
It's the
around.
other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we get lime scale here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get lime scale up north.
But I'm pretty sure our bodies have a way of dealing with not getting lime scale in our
Yeah, it's
own
called
pipes.
herpes.
And on that note,
And on that bombshell,
it's time to end the show.
good night.